Golden Radio Hour.
The National Broadcasting Company presents The Adventures of Sam Spade, Detective.
Sam Spade Detective Agency.
Me, sweetheart.
Oh, you.
What's the matter now?
Oh, nothing. You just up and leave and don't say where you're going, and I'm only your secretary, and I'm the last one to know about it, and everybody else in town knows more than I do, and I wasn't even
Enough. Wait a minute. How did everybody in town know about it?
Well, it was in the newspapers, that's all. In the society column, no less.
Really? Well, imagine that.
Florabelle Frolics column.
Florabelle.
Mr. Spade, the notorious private detective, is vacationing at Westover as a guest of a promising young architect, Garrett Welch.
Notorious yet. Well, at least they spell my name right.
I suppose you had a great time.
Well, it was exciting.
What did you do?
Just talked over old times, F. Did a little hunting, little shooting.
Did you bag anything?
F, watch your language.
Damn.
I see you're shocked. Well, so was I. However, if you have nothing to do, hang around the office, and I will be down with several pages from my diary telling about the whole affair. I've titled them The Civic Pride Caper.
For NBC, William Spear, radio's outstanding producer-director of mystery and crime drama, brings you the greatest private detective of them all, starring Stephen Dunn in The Adventures of Sam Spade.
Effie!
Oh, here I am, Sam.
Well, I thought you'd gone chicken and run out on me. You're part of this organization. You're going to bear the bitter with the sweet, along with the rest of us.
I know, but I always seem to get the bitter. Friday's when the sweets will be given out.
Don't quibble. This is a nasty job we have here, and we might just as well sit down and get it over with. You care for a drink? You might need it.
No, thanks. I don't need false bravery.
Lucky you. Well, are you ready?
No, but we might as well start.
Well, you know best. Date, fill it in, to Garrett Welsh, room 212, Fairchild Building, Westover, California. From Samuel Spade, license number 137596. Subject, the Civic Pride Caper. Dear Garrett, I'd never been in Westover before, and I found it, on the surface at least, an attractive, bustling little city. The streets were clean, and the girls were sun-kissed and friendly. Add to that the $150 you sent me by mail, and you can imagine with what pleasant feelings I arrived. I found the Fairchild Building easily enough, and room 212, well, I couldn't miss it. There were sounds of vigorous activity coming out through the transom. And when I opened the door, two men were engaged in a fight. One was big and one was little. I didn't know which one was my client, so I automatically reached for the big guy.
Hey, let go of me. What do you think you're doing?
What's it all about?
Oh, ask him. He'll tell you.
All right, what's the story?
I was being foully and unreasonably attacked by this misguided citizen.
I ought to kill you. That's what I ought to do. That's what everybody ought to do.
Hold still.
Oh, you.
Why?
Oh, let him go. Let him go. Beat it, Carlson. Wait until you can catch me alone in some dark alley.
Don't think I won't. Don't you think I won't.
I'm sure you will.
I'm going to catch you every place and every time I can.
Well, I take it your name is Garrett Welch.
It is. And I want to thank you, friend.
Nothing.
You rescued me from a rather unhappy breeding.
And your mouth is kind of cut up.
Huh? Oh, there's nothing I can't take care of. Drink?
Never touch it.
Oh.
You...
You might have noticed I've already had a few drinks today. Well, it helps me forget. And it also keeps me from thinking. There you are.
No, thanks. My name is Spade. Why did you send for me? Bodyguard?
No. Let them have their fun. I don't mind. Maybe I even deserve it.
Look, you're paying for my time. Why don't we get with it, huh?
Oh, sure. Why not?
Good.
Come over here to the window. There. Look out there.
Where?
The far corner.
Oh, you mean that building?
Pile of rubbish is a better description.
Well, what happened? Fire?
No. It just collapsed one night. Last week.
Oh.
There were more than 3,000 people in it at the time. 5 of them were killed. I don't know how many injured.
Well, that's too bad. How did it happen?
It just collapsed. Another drink?
No, thanks.
Pardon me? It was a municipal auditorium built to honor the war dead. It cost over $1 million. I was the architect.
Oh.
Yeah. I was picked by the townspeople for the singular honor of designing the fond memorial. Well, now they have something to remember.
What'd you do wrong?
Nothing. Nothing. Somebody cheated in the building of it. Somebody didn't follow my plans. I don't know who it is. I don't know who it was. Or just where to place the blame. So, you're a private investigator? What can you do?
Get you some black coffee and ask you some questions. He gave me a list of everybody in town who had something to do with the building. First off, I called on a man named Howard Kessley, whose construction company had the contract for erecting the auditorium. Kessley lived in an elegant house on a well-guarded estate. And after they took my gun away from me, they let me in. I waited in a room tastefully decorated with original oil paintings and oriental rugs. And eventually, a football hero-type man walked in.
You from the insurance company?
No, I'm a private detective, Sam Spade.
Who are you working for?
Garrett Welch.
Huh. That's a laugh.
Funny.
Well, what do you want?
Look, you built that auditorium. Have you any idea why it fell down?
Maybe it just got tired. I don't know.
Aren't you interested?
We're looking into it now.
Who's we?
My company engineers. That Garrett Welch. An architect. We should have had somebody who knew what he was doing.
Do you have any copies of the building specifications that I might look at?
Sure. I got nothing to hide. You can go back and tell Garrett Welch that the best thing he can do is get out of town. Or somebody tries to knock him off and succeed. Yeah. Here. There's a copy of the plans. Look at it all you want. You'll find I did what I was supposed to do.
I got my gun back from the guards and left with the building specifications tucked under my arm. They didn't mean a thing to me, of course. I'd only asked for them to see whether he'd refuse to show them. But out of curiosity, I unrolled them just for a look before dumping them into the ash can. And I noticed something. The last page was signed and approved by the city building inspector, a man named Albert Mitchell.
Well, I don't usually receive callers at this hour, but you're a little better looking than the ordinary callers. Come in.
She was slim and auburn-haired and wore an insolent smile that was interesting, and a clinging silk thing that was interesting. She looked me up and down, and she took so long at it.
Okay. Okay, what is it? Magazines? The gas meter? Or did you just lose your way?
I'd like to talk to Albert Mitchell.
Oh, he's a dull conversationalist. You wouldn't have any fun.
Well, I wasn't exactly looking for laughs, Mrs. You are Mrs. Mitchell?
More or less. Right now, less. Soda or water?
What?
And your drink.
Oh, thanks, but I took the pledge last Halloween.
What did you want to talk to Al about?
Well, what else? The auditorium that collapsed.
Well, he stepped out for a while. Why don't we just make ourselves comfortable?
You have a standard answer when I'm on duty. Thanks anyway.
Duty? You a cop? I've never seen you around this town before.
Private type investigator. Sam Spade.
My name's Kitty. You don't have to worry about Al busting in on us. I don't think he'll be back this week.
That's what I thought, you holding open house and all. What's the matter? The pressure get too heavy for him?
Look, Sam, they had a hearing a couple of days ago. It was all decided. Nobody was to blame. I think Al went fishing or something.
Where is he?
How should I know? I'm only his wife.
Well, you know what they say about a man who runs.
Yeah, so why don't you stick around? You don't look like a coward to me.
Well, when it comes to redheads, I really am. So long, Kitty.
But...
Oh, by the way, if Al does ever show up, tell him I took a room at the Embassy Hotel. I'd like him to call me.
I won't tell him a thing. Come back here, you coward. Hey, Sam!
I went down to the wreckage of the auditorium. It was late, and the streets were quiet and deserted. I walked through the twisted shell of the building, striking matches and looking around. I didn't know what I was looking for, but apparently I wasn't the only one visiting the scene of the crime. I was standing just inside the gutted remains of what was once the lobby when it happened. Gunfire cut loose at the back of the building. I ran toward the noise, and when I turned the back corner, I saw a cloud of plaster dust where the shots had apparently been fired. There were no people or cars in sight, but on the sidewalk, on hands and knees, was a man.
double-crossing dirty rats. Save me. Don't let me die. Kitty.
He grabbed my legs and tried to pull himself up. His face was a gargoyle of pain. I reached down to help him, but he slipped back to the sidewalk, dead. 4 bullets had gone through his back. A billfold fell out of his pocket. It was loaded with identification, and everything said Albert Mitchell, age 40, occupation, building inspector.
You are listening to the weekly adventure of radio's most famous detective, Sam Spade. Three chimes mean good times on NBC. This Sunday, Theater Guild on the Air presents an exciting 1-hour adaptation of the Broadway stage comedy Light Up the Sky. Starring in this Theater Guild production are Joan Bennett, Sam Levine, and Thelma Ritter. And on Sunday, you're invited to another hour-and-a-half broadcast of The Big Show, starring Eddie Arnold, Jack Carson, Eddie Cantor, Olivia de Havilland, Martha Ray, Meredith Wilson, and many more. Your MC, of course, is the glamorous and unpredictable Tallulah. And now back to the Civic Pride caper, tonight's adventure with Sam Spade.
A good many other people had heard the sound of Albert Mitchell's assassination, and before long a crowd had gathered. Among them were several minions of the law. They took 2 people in tow, the dead Mitchell and the live Spade. The Westover Police Department had themselves a fine time over me. It seems I was hired out-of-town killer and therefore eligible to be questioned all night. They worked hard at it, but in the morning they had to admit defeat and release me. I think they only did it because they didn't want to pay for my breakfast. By then I was pretty mad, and at 10 o'clock I walked into the mayor's office and demanded an interview. I got it.
The whole thing, Mr. Spade, was regrettable. But after all, you are a stranger here. And when a man is killed and someone happens to be in on the scene, questions have to be asked.
Your Honor, I'll let it pass in the interests of law enforcement.
Good. Our report on you from San Francisco gives you quite a reputation as an investigator. Do you have any theories that might help us in this murder of Mitchell?
Well, I could hazard an expert guess that it's tied in with the building scandal, the auditorium collapse. By the way, what's being done officially to fix the blame for that?
The city council held its investigation of the unfortunate affair last week, and as far as we can determine, no one is directly responsible.
No one? Oh, come, Your Honor.
Are you questioning our civic procedure? Oh, well, maybe you're right. Maybe we've been too easygoing. We're all neighbors here.
Yes, I'm
friends.
conducting an investigation for a client who certainly has a right to know what's going on, insofar as a good many citizens seem to feel he's to blame.
Oh, yes, Mr. Welch. Well, he's not to blame. No one is. You must pardon my abruptness, Mr. Spade, but the events of the past week have been a little more
Yes, I know. Tell me, Albert Mitchell, as building inspector, must have approved the building of the auditorium. Now, was he a reliable man?
Yes. Wait a minute. You don't think...
I think he was killed by somebody who wanted him to keep his mouth shut. Now, what about the contractor, Howard Kesley?
Kesley? Born here. Brought up here. He's built about 1/3 of the structures in Westover. Every one of them, except the auditorium, is standing today. No, I don't think you can build up a case...
I'm just examining the possibilities, Your Honor. You have to begin with the people who had something to gain from this thing. Where there's graft, there might be murder. Where are the purchase orders for the materials used in this building?
That was the first question I asked. I was told they were destroyed with all the other useless paperwork that accumulated from the construction job.
Oh, great. That certainly makes it convenient for somebody.
Mr. Spade, I don't wish to, and I can't believe, as you apparently do, that this town's population is crooked and rotten. So if I come across any information that will help clear the good name of Garrett Welch, you can be sure that I'll be happy to bring it to your attention. Until then, I bid you good day, sir.
I could understand Mayor Sullivan's desire to protect the fair name of his city, but I had to take a meaner view of at least one Westover citizen. I found out where Albert Mitchell did his banking, and misrepresenting myself as a collection agent, pried into his holdings.
Let me see now, Mr. Humboldt. I really shouldn't give out this kind of information, but in your case, when you have a claim against the estate, I'd... Oh, yes, here it is. He has $300 in his account, that's all.
What kind of deposits did he make?
Oh, just paychecks mostly. He was a $7,500 a year man. Every Friday he deposited $150.
Any deposits larger at any time?
Oh, yes. 4 deposits of $5,000 each in the past year.
Well, what do you know?
As I recall Mr. Mitchell saying, there were payments from the estate he inherited.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Carter. You'll hear from my company soon, I'm sure.
Yes. Oh, what was the name of your company again, for my records?
Amalgamated Whistle.
Oh, yes.
Preferred.
Oh, yes, of course.
That inheritance gag was right out of the Kefauver investigation. An inheritance is paid in a lump sum, practically never in 4 payments of $5,000 each. I didn't know whether Mrs. Mitchell was receiving, but I decided to find out. When I knocked at her door, all was quiet inside, but a second after my knock, there was a burst of sorrow. When she came to the door, there were 2 rather impossible-sized tears flowing down her face. For widow's weed, she wore a black dress, tight, satin, and low cut.
Oh, Mr. Spade, I'm in no mood for talking now.
Oh, just for a moment. May I come in?
I guess so. I'm really kind of alone and lost. What is it you want?
I must apologize for intruding on your bereavement, Mrs. Mitchell. I'm not usually as callous.
Oh,
as
that's
this,
all right. But I'm not sure I can help you any. I'm so broken up.
What is it, camphor?
What?
Whatever you used to make those tears.
All right, so I can't really cry. I never have, but it's expected of me.
Yeah, all right. In that case, I sympathize with you.
What do you want?
Kitty, your dear departed husband made $7,500 a year and deposited $20,000 in 8 months. Now, what about it?
I don't know anything about his money. All I know is that the bank told me he had only $300 left.
What'd he do with it?
He spent it on other women.
No, I see. So the artificial tears do make sense, I guess.
No, you don't understand. It's not that simple. It's funny, Sam, because I really mean it. Oh, I know how stupid I look in these clothes. And I did use camphor on my eyes because I wanted to cry. I wanted to cry for all the good days and the good years Al and I had. But the bad years kept getting in between, and I couldn't do it.
I like you better all the time, Kitty. I knew you were real pretty. Now it turns out you're pretty real.
I really loved him, and he loved me. But we kicked it away because we both wanted more excitement than this town or his salary could give us. There was no place to go. We just didn't get along. He was out spending his money on other women, being a big shot. I can't blame him, though. I helped make him do it.
What about the money? He got it for falsifying the auditorium inspection papers, didn't he?
Well, he didn't get it for inventing television.
Who paid him?
Sam, don't ask me anymore.
Well, you do know where the $20,000 came from, don't you, Kitty?
Don't, Sam. I'm scared.
You know what you ought to do? You ought to come back to San Francisco with me. Let me help you get a job there. You can make a fresh start.
You're not kidding.
I give you my word.
I ought to have my head examined for trusting you, but I'm going to do it. Al got that money from the Central Cement Company for, quote, an advisory capacity, unquote. You know who owns the Central Cement Company?
Howard Kessley?
Warm, but not quite. His brother. Last night when Al showed up in town, he was gunning for trouble.
Why?
He said they were going to make a fall guy out of him, and that he wasn't going to take the blame for anybody. That's what he said. But I think he ran out of money and wanted to make a touch in exchange for disappearing again, for good.
And you think Kessley shot him or his brother?
I can't think, and I don't know anything else. Now, do I get to San Francisco?
I'll be back for you, Kitty.
All right, but make it fast. And don't leave me here, because if anything happens to me, Sam, it'll be on your conscience.
She walked to the door with me and kissed me on the cheek, and it was nice. No more than that. It was nice. Next stop, the Central Cement Company offices. Statement of Howard Kessley's brother, Ralph.
I'll explain it to you in simple terms. We supplied cement for a lot of buildings in this part of the country. When you want to build something, you submit a bid. When you want to know what kind of a bid to submit, you ask an expert. Mitchell was our expert, and we didn't expect him to work for nothing.
You mean Mitchell tipped you off as to what other firms were bidding?
Well, call it anything you want. It's done all the time.
I found Garrett Welch, my architect client, slumped over his desk, much the worse for drink, and it took a good half hour with coffee and wet cloths to bring him around to something resembling normal.
I was proud of that building, Mr. Spade. As proud once as I am ashamed of it now. I spent 4 years at a prominent American college and 2 years apprenticeship with a great architect to prepare myself to come back here and make this the most beautiful city in the West.
Well, you must have watched them build it. What went wrong?
That's the point. I wasn't here. They sent me to Chicago to study. And I bid for it. What they really wanted was for me to be out of the way.
Who are they?
The city council. But, oh, why bother? Just tell me how much I owe you and we'll just forget it. Nobody's going to indict anybody for anything.
Well, somebody's responsible for the building and for Mitchell's murder, and we'll find him.
We?
Yeah. If you'll lay off that bottle for a while and work with me, maybe we can do it.
All right. All right. No more booze. I'll stop feeling sorry for myself and start getting mad. Hey, where you going?
I'm going to start at the top. I'm going to try to get the mayor to help.
You say you've turned up something, Mr. Spade?
A lot of something, Your Honor. I've ferreted out copies of the purchase orders for the materials used in that building. They were generally inferior and below the quality required by sound engineering and the law.
Oh, you can't mean it.
I do. You can inform your district attorney that in a matter of 2 or 3 days, I will move for an indictment of several people in this community for gross criminal negligence. Now, I want to know whether or not I'll have your full cooperation.
There's no question of that. I'll cooperate with you fully to prosecute
Thank you, Your Honor, and good day.
Just a minute.
Yeah?
About Howard Kesley.
What about him?
Do you still consider that he is subject to suspicion?
The families of the 5 people who died in the ruins would think anybody who was concerned in the building project were subject to suspicion, Your Honor.
Mr. Spade, you know about politics. Certain people contributed campaign funds and got me votes.
Kesley?
I've been in a difficult position. I've been weak, perhaps. Maybe I haven't wanted to look too closely at certain possibilities in this horrible affair, but I promise you I won't stop now. It doesn't matter what happens. My first duty is to the citizens of this town.
Well said, Your Honor. Just tell the same thing to the other members of the city council. Tell them that if I kick the lid off this garbage can, it's going to make Westover smell pretty bad.
You'll hear from me, Mr. Spade. I guarantee you.
In the course of the next 2 hours, I told the same story to the newspaper, the police, a couple of soda jerks, a waitress, and almost anybody else who would listen. And before the day was out, the results started coming in. Garrett Welch's office and my room at the Embassy Hotel were both ransacked. Somebody started shadowing me, and I had a mysterious phone call offering me money to get out of town. I refused and hung up. During that day, I stayed mostly out in the open, in conspicuous parts of town. But when night fell, I knew I'd need to watch my step. Garrett Welch and I holed up in his office with the door locked and my gun out on the desk. Around 11, we got a little action.
Well, speaking. Yeah? Yeah, okay. It's for you, Spade.
Hello?
Sam, this is Kitty Mitchell. I'm in trouble.
What kind?
3 men were just here. They said I gave you some purchase orders. I don't know anything about them, but they said if I didn't get them back from you by midnight, they'd kill me.
Who were they?
I don't know. Just men. If you've got them, give them to me, Sam. I don't want to die.
Look, hang up, call the police, and ask them for protection.
Sam, I'm afraid. Why don't you give me the papers?
Get in a taxi cab and come up to Garrett Welch's office. We'll talk it over.
I'm afraid to do that.
Well, you'll have to. I can't leave here. I'm waiting for somebody.
Who?
I'm not sure yet. Somebody threatened Mitchell's wife. She's coming up here.
Well, I think we have enough to do taking care of ourselves. Who's that?
Go on, you answer it. Then step to one side. I'll keep you covered.
Okay.
Don't make one wrong move.
I'm not going to, Spade. I came here to talk.
Kesley?
Yes.
Who's with you, Kesley?
Nobody. I'm alone and unarmed.
Come in.
I'm watching you from behind, Kesley.
I know it. I just came to talk.
All right, talk.
Spade, you allegedly have information as to why the auditorium collapsed, killing 5 people.
Suppose I do.
Well, I came to make a deal with you.
We're not making deals.
I think you'll like this one. I'll give you all the positive information you want for one thing.
Namely?
A 48-hour head start out of town.
Why should we give you that?
Because nobody, least of all myself, thought the building would collapse. It's true I used inferior materials, but I had to.
What does that mean?
There's a man in this town.
The door was suddenly kicked wide, and a blaze of bullets flew across the room. Kesley's mouth opened in shock, his knees buckled, and he pitched forward, bouncing off the desk to the floor. A tall, silver-haired gentleman was behind the gun. That caught him shoulder high, spun him around. The gun fell out of his hand, and Welch and I were on him in a second.
All right. I've done all I'm going to do. I'm hurt. I'm wounded.
Well, Your Honor, you're better off than Kesley.
Kesley didn't want to do it, but I had something on his brother and told him I'd send him to jail. We saved $100,000 on the cheap supplies we used in that building.
Yeah, when I showed up, Kesley was afraid he was going to take the rap alone. He was afraid he'd end up like Albert Mitchell, right?
Yes. I killed Mitchell. He wanted more money.
You killed him, you...
Kitty, don't put it down! She had come in while we were talking and picked up the gun Mayor Sullivan had dropped. Her one shot hit him in the chest. Then she let the gun slip through her fingers and just stood there. Then you know what? She cried. Real tears. Period. End of report.
Sam, what an awful tragedy.
It was indeed, F. Of course, in a few minutes, the place was full of police, and we turned her over.
What do you think's going to happen to her, Sam?
I'd rather not think about that, Effie. Now, how about typing it up?
Three chimes mean good times on NBC. There's fun this Sunday with two of your favorite families, the Blandings and the Harrises. Mr. and Mrs. Blanding stars Cary Grant and Betsy Drake in the title roles as the owners of the famous Dream House. And the Phil Harris-Alice Faye Show brings you Phil and Alice with more of their merry antics, plus Frankie Remley, Brother William, and the entire cast. You're invited this Sunday.
Here it is, Sam. All typed up.
Well, I'll take your word for it. I'm not going to read it again.
Why did the mayor come in and shoot the building contractor in front of witnesses? Why, he threw away everything he worked so hard to steal. Why?
That is a good question, F. Saved by the knock. Come in.
This is Sam Spade's office.
It is?
I'm Lyle Rooks.
You expect me to believe that?
I'm Western editor of Radio Television Mirror magazine.
Well, you know best.
I just wanted to tell you that in our annual awards poll, nationwide, the American listeners have chosen Steve Dunn as their favorite detective.
Steve Dunn, not me?
Be quiet, Sam.
So here, sir, is your citation. You may want to frame it. Put it up in your office.
Why?
Thank you. Goodbye.
Well, Steve Dunn, who
He's the man that plays you on the radio, Sam. Oh, he's handsome.
Well, do you love him better than you love me when I'm burning up with passion for you?
Are you really burning up, Sam?
Well, I'm beginning to smolder a little. Come here and tell me about love.
Oh, well, I don't know much about it, Sam. Not as much as I'd like to know.
Well, I'm sorry. Sorry, I don't have a teacher's permit for the state of California.
Good night, Sam.
Good night, sweetheart.
The Adventures of Sam Spade are produced, edited, and directed by William Spear. Sam Spade is played by Stephen Dunn. Lorene Tuttle is Effie. Also in the cast were Shirley Mitchell, Jack Crucian, Sidney Miller, Paul Frees, Herb Rawlinson, and Lou Merrill. Script for tonight's adventure by John Michael Hayes. Musical scoring by Lud Gluskin, conducted by Robert Armbruster. Join us again next week, same time, for another adventure with Sam Spade. Tomorrow, enjoy the exciting Man Called X on NBC.
The National Broadcasting Company presents The Adventures of Sam Spade, Detective.
Spade Detective Agency.
Hello, hello, hello.
Sam?
At this hour on this network, you were expecting maybe Mary Margaret McBride?
I've been expecting anything, Sam.
Well.
After all, to have you drop out of sight like that, leaving not a ripple on the surface for 4 whole days. Mr. Livingstone is frantic.
Who?
Mr. Livingstone, the man you rented the car from. He's ready to send out a search party.
Aha! Sammy and Livingstone with a reverse twist.
It's no joke, Sam.
Nothing, huh?
You have no right to worry me like this. It's not fair. Where are you?
To the only spot on Earth as yet unvisited by the National Geographic Society, sweetheart, the Vale of Takaloma. And don't try to find it on a map because it isn't. Set yourself for my saga of a crook's tour of the hinterlands with just a touch of mysticism, which is why I call it the Rowdy Dowser caper. All right, Murgatroyd, these will do.
Sam, where are you calling from?
A tailor shop. I had to leave without my pants.
For NBC, William Spear, radio's outstanding producer-director of mystery and crime drama, brings you the greatest private detective of them all, starring Stephen Dunn in The Adventures of Sam Spade.
Dum-da-da-dum-dum-dum. When you and I were young. Effie.
Sam?
Who else?
Are you decent?
Decent?
Well, you said you'd lost your pants, so... Oh!
How do they look? Well?
Isn't it a little early for Halloween?
Ooh, you made a joke. You ready, woman?
As always, Sam.
Date, fill it in. 2 Constable Ollie Shuttle, North Takaloma, California. From Samuel Spade, license number 1375596. Subject, the Rowdy Dowser caper. Dear Ollie, on Wednesday it was when I returned to my office of a fine spring morning to find a note lying on my desk like a big, juicy piece of cheese in a mousetrap. Quote, Mr. Spade, call North Takaloma 3, unquote. North Takaloma. Where have I...
Long distance.
North Takaloma 3.
Yes, sir. One moment. Would you repeat the number, please?
North Takaloma 3.
North Takaloma 3.
Nice diction.
That is North Takaloma?
I'm not kidding. Look it up, girl. Look it up.
Yes, sir. North Takaloma 3.
Well, she must have found it in the book because soon we had encouraging buzzes and clicks. 6 operators later, we had punched our way north to the farm at Slattery Flat. Then we knocked off for lunch while Slim Slattery repaired the windmill that made the juice for the last lap. At 2:07 p.m., victory was in sight. Yeah?
Sam, this is Operator Nyan for the 10th time.
Oh, fine. How we doing, Millie?
Sam boy, I am actually ringing North Takaloma 3.
Oh, good girl.
Hello?
Hello, this is Sam Spade. I have a note here to
Oh,
call
yes, Mr. Spade. You were out of town when I came. Perhaps you remember me. Wendell Wisby of Oak Tree Lane, North Takaloma, California.
Wendell?
I employed you a year ago to find a girl who vanished.
The magician. You made the girl disappear and couldn't bring her back.
Correct.
Yeah.
You may well ask, Mr. Spade, how anything could be worse than that. Well, this is...
Oh, there, Wendell. There, boy. Take it easy.
I can't talk. I just can't talk about it.
Fine. Then write me a nice, long letter.
Well,
you know,
I'd
this
rather...
is a long-distance call, and I...
No. I am sorry, Mr. Spade, but this has affected me very deeply.
Look, you promised you'd lay off the magic, Wendell.
Well,
What'd you do? Misplace half a woman this time?
No, I have given up magic, Mr. Spade. I am currently employed as third vice president of the Second National Bank of North Takaloma.
All that?
Yes, sir. Oh, my star was rising. My future seemed assured, but now a shadow has fallen over my good name.
Boot it along, will you, Wendell? This is costing me money.
I cannot tell you more on the phone, Mr. Spade. You must come at once. It is extremely urgent.
I see. Well, frankly, Wendell, I have a feeling I'll be tied up.
But I left
There's
your
a collection
retainer
I
under
have
your
to make,
desk,
and, well,
brother.
the chances are I'll... What was that?
I just said there's $100 under your desk blotter for a retainer. I left it when I came with the note. But if you have a collection to make, suppose
Wendell, that is the collection. And so it befell that shortly before lunch on the following day, I guided my rented hack across the ford at Clobber Creek, up the high road through Possum Notch, and down into the Vale of Toccoloma, where I muscled my way through a flock of geese in the main street and tied up before the imposing stone facade of the Second National Bank. Inside, sitting in front of the door marked Urban Root President, sat a secretary whose facade looked colder and even more imposing than the bank's. She was shriveling one of the customers, a meek little milquetoast in a salt and pepper soup.
But as I informed you, my good man, President Root is extremely tied up at the moment.
Oh, I'm quite aware of that, miss. I wouldn't bother him for the world, but you see, I
don't see. And since you refused to state the nature of your business...
Did I refuse?
You most certainly did.
Oh, dear me, I didn't mean to refuse anything. It's just that, well, it's sort of personal, and may I go in?
You may sit down until I tell you to go in. Is that clear?
Yes, ma'am, yes, I understand. I don't mind waiting. Don't mind at all.
And now you, sir. What do you want?
I have an appointment with Wendell Wisby.
Mr. Wisby is in conference with the President Root.
Thanks.
If you'll sit down, I'll... just a minute, sir. Just a minute.
And you must understand, President Root, this is a matter of family honor.
Yeah.
I shall... Oh.
Hi, Wendell.
Oh, Mr. Spade.
Now, sorry I couldn't get here sooner, but it's a long haul.
Well, Mr. Spade is a friend of mine, President Root, from my salad days as a magician. A very competent detective, I might add.
Well, thank you, Wendell.
Yeah, I see.
We are indeed fortunate to have him with us in this matter.
Good, good. Please sit down, Mr. Spade.
Thanks.
You are aware, Mr. Spade, this matter is to be held in strictest confidence. Word must be kept from the depositors at all cost until...
But remember, President Root, remember the code of the Wisbys. Should worst come to worst, I shall make good. I shall make good if it takes me...
I understand, Wisby. I understand.
Well, mind if I admit I don't? What is it, Wendell?
Snatcher.
Snatch whom?
Uncle Purse.
Our former cashier, Mr. Spade. Purse Snatcher. Wisby's uncle.
Purse Snatcher. What about him?
Everything.
He has disappeared.
Absconded.
That is a harsh word, President Root. I would prefer to say he disappeared until we have further proof.
The money's gone, isn't it?
How much money?
$53,000.
From Uncle Purse's accounts.
Yeah.
It may be he has absconded, President Root, but we must remember that despite the Snatcher surname, Uncle Purse is a Wisby. And a Wisby never lived who got away with $53,000.
All right, Wisby. He disappeared.
Yes, may I ask when he disappeared?
Last Friday night, about 9 o'clock.
Anyone see him go?
Almost everyone.
His car stalled at Main and Persimmon. Several people saw him trying to start it. He was acting very strangely.
Oh, how was that, Wendell?
Well, Clem Clobber and Charity Fid and several others spoke to him from the curb, but he wouldn't answer them. He didn't say a word to anyone, which is not at all like Uncle Purse Snatcher.
Wisby, man to man. Would you feel sociable with a satchel full of stolen money on the seat beside you?
Well, there you have a point, President Root.
I can't blame you for the way you feel, President Root, but I must continue to believe the best of Uncle Purse until Mr. Spade discovers the worst.
Oh.
And in that dismal eventuality, please know I intend to pay off the $53,000 plus interest on the installment plan. $5.37 per week for 48 years.
Oh.
You have my word on it, sir. The word of a Wisby.
With which solemn pronouncement, Wendell marched out, closely followed by me. Salt and Pepper Suit Milquetoast was still fingering his hat brim, looking hopefully at Miss Icewater for the sign. At Wendell's suggestion, I hustled out to the Snatcher homestead for a word with Percy's wife, a timid little woman with her heart in her eyes, known from one end of the valley to the other as Aunt Wistful.
I can hardly think straight these days, Mr. Spade. So full of puzzlement this thing has left me.
Of course, Aunt Wistful.
Have another dipper of cider, Mr. Spade. Oh, get down, not you.
No thanks, Aunt Wistful.
Purse wasn't himself since the well run dry. We had a passel of dry winters here in the valley, you know, but never for this as the well run dry. Purse didn't know which way to turn. Pipe end's 2 miles down the road. Couldn't afford to bring it in here.
I see.
He took to muttering to himself, saying strange things. Coming home from his work at the bank with a frown on his face. Stayed there all evening.
What do you mean, strange things?
Oh, I don't recollect very well. He brought a law book home one night, though, and out of a clear sky, he says to me, "Wistful honey, do you know the punishment for embezzlement is 5 to 10 years in prison?" I asked what he meant by that, and he said he thought it might be a good thing for a banker to know.
Well, he had something there.
It was the night after that. He come home all cheerful. Said he thought he'd figured a way out. Found a fella to help him. Get down. I had no idea what Perce was thinking.
What fella?
Urban Root, I suppose.
Oh.
It's Urban's bank he was fixing to steal from. But then I got word from my sister ailing over to Fogarty Grove, so Thursday I left, and when I got back Saturday, he'd gone.
Did he take his things?
Mostly. Funny. He did one strange thing for this time of year. He left his corn teeth behind.
Corn teeth, huh?
A spare pair of store teeth for corn on the cob.
Oh.
Perce will miss him now with summer coming on.
Yes, he will.
Bless him. You know, ever since spring, I've been after Perce to spade up my flower bed by the window. He did it before he left, now that there's no water to grow things with. I loved him so much, Mr. Spade. In this awful way for marriage to end. Oh, get down.
Well, I started at Main and Persimmon Streets and worked south, farm by farm. Everyone seemed to have been sitting on his front stoop Friday night because all remembered Perce Snatcher driving out on the South Road in his 1919 Winton 6. Up to a point, that is. Somewhere between North Takaloma and Fogarty Grove, I ran out of witnesses. And in Piney Crotch, of all places, the town beyond, they could guarantee Perce didn't pass through because the main drag was roped off all Friday night for a square dance. And thus matters stood on the third day when I limped back to the bank. For some reason, a crowd had gathered in the alleyway next door. Writing it off as a floating crap game, I walked inside, bowed formally to Miss Icewater, then plunked myself down at Wendell's desk.
Oh, Shaw. I just found I miscalculated on the interest. At $5.37 per week, I won't have this paid off until I'm 134.
And who knows, by then you may even have a wife and children to support. Look, don't you think you were a little impetuous with that retainer?
What retainer?
Mine, the $100.
$100?
Wendell, the $100 you stuck under my desk blotter when you hired me.
I hired you?
You came to my office while I was out of town, Wendell. You left a note for me to call you. I talked to you on the telephone. Well, didn't I?
Mr. Spade, something is very wrong. I did not talk to you on the telephone at all.
What?
I thought you were employed by President Root.
Well, where is President Root?
I don't know. He stepped out some time ago, and there's someone waiting for him in his office.
Oh?
Do-do-do-dee-do-do. Hi, Miss Icewater. Oh, tell me, pretty mean, are there any more at home like you?
Well, milk toast. But with a difference. The salt and pepper suit had gone. Beret, bow tie, plaid sport jacket with a racing form sticking out of the pocket. Maroon +4s and wool socks with tassels. He took one of President Root's cigars out of his pocket, bit off the end, and lit it. Then smiled, or rather leered, at Miss Icewater.
Well, honey?
I'm sorry,
Oh,
sir.
23 skidoo, sweet stuff.
President Root will be back shortly if you...
Oh, don't be a back number, beautiful.
But, sir, I don't...
Papa love Mama?
Well, I don't know what to say.
You'll learn. Tell Cookie I'll be back, huh?
Yes, sir. Anything you say.
Live a little, baby. Live a little. Toodaloo.
Golly.
Golly, indeed. Miss Icewater. Hey.
Oh.
What was that?
I don't know his name. A friend of President Root's. He's rather attractive, don't you think?
Only now, as I went outside in his wake, did I see what had caused the crowd in the alleyway. The first sport model convertible in Tolokema Valley since Wally Reed came through on location. And the first pink one I'd ever seen. Pondering the new milk toast, I walked into the drugstore, found a phone book, and checked all 25 names. North Tacoloma 3 belonged to the Atomic Auto Courts and Restaurant. Charity Fid, proprietress. She was riding herd on a griddle full of lamb chops when I pulled up at the counter.
How's that again, Sonny? Short, you say?
Short.
And scalped on top with a fringe of hair like so?
Yeah, and a wicked leer in his eye. That's my man.
Well, he wasn't wearing no Barrett hat nor plaid coat when I seen him. Salt and pepper suit it was.
Yeah, I know. Who is he?
Well, he didn't register, but they say he's Dowser.
Dowser. Don't know his first name, do you?
Nope. Now, where he come from? Stayed in room 6 till 2 days ago. Ain't seen him around since.
When did he come here?
Let me see now. Codfish balls.
Beg pardon?
Oh, that'd be Friday night, late. And the funny thing now, think of it, he'd come afoot. Not by the road from Fogarty Grove, mind you, but by the trail over the ridge.
Oh, where does it go to, Aunt Charity?
Winds up the old clobber place, abandoned now.
Oh, thanks. I'll be back.
You'll be nothing. You just sit right down where you are and you wrap yourself around this. Ain't no growing boy going hiking over the ridge without supper. Clean it up now, every scrap.
Yes, Ma. It had been dark about 2 hours when, carrying one of Aunt Charity's best coal oil lanterns, I topped the ridge and looked down on Clem Clobber's abandoned barn, nestling in a grove of ancient oaks at the very foot of the hill. The moon was bright enough to show up the pair of grassy ruts leading from the rear of it down the gully toward the road to Fogarty Grove, a couple of miles away. On general principles, I blew out the lantern, then scrambled down the side hill and up to the barn door. I couldn't make out anything inside at first, and then finally something took shape. A dark hulk in the middle of the floor. Stupid me, I lit a match. It was an automobile. To be exact, it was Purse Snatcher's 1919 Winton 6. His hat and the tweed overcoat everyone saw him wearing Friday night were lying across the front seat. I held the match higher and bent over for a closer look. Whereupon Spade and the match went out together.
You are listening to the weekly adventure of radio's most famous detective, Sam Spade. Three chimes mean good times on NBC. There's fun for you Sunday with two of your favorite families, the Blandings and the Harrises. Mr. and Mrs. Blanding stars Cary Grant and Betsy Drake in the title roles as the proud but somewhat bewildered owners of the famous Dream House. The Phil Harris-Alice Faye Show stars Phil and Alice, of course, plus ever-helpful Frankie Remley, Brother William, and delivery boy Julius. Yes, there are laughs this Sunday and every Sunday with the Phil Harris-Alice Faye Show and Mr. and Mrs. Blandings. And now, back to the Rowdy Dowser caper, tonight's adventure with Sam Spade.
I must apologize, Constable, for succumbing once again to the traditional nemesis of the private eye. But the bald facts are simply that I bent over for a closer look at the Winton 6 and was struck a dastardly blow on the rear of the head. How long I remained incommunicado, I know not, but I awoke presently, and with good reason. My pants were on fire. As a matter of fact, the entire barn was on fire, and I was lying in the tonneau of the Winton 6 wearing Purse Snatcher's overcoat. The door I'd come in was a wall of flame, likewise the stalls on both sides. But at the rear were a few square feet of rotten siding that hadn't caught yet. Now, ordinarily, I'd have thought twice, but when your pants are afire, you only think once. So I ran right through it and took a flying header into the creek behind the barn. It was just as well I only thought once, since at this moment the flames reached the Winton's gas tank. Hi.
Good laws almighty, what have you been up to, boy?
Smoking corn silk behind Clobber's barn. Match got away from me.
Well, stay right there till I find my goose grease.
No. Later, Aunt Charity. How about the key to 6?
The Dowser fella?
Yeah.
Won't need no key, son.
No door open?
If he left it open, he's in there now. Barrett hat, plaid coat, and a 25-cent cigar. Help yourself.
Well.
Well, hey, Mr. Spade, isn't it?
Right, and you're Dowser.
Dowser?
Isn't it?
Yes. Yeah, that's right, Dowser. Hey, you can call me Alonzo. Sit down.
No, I'll stand.
Oh? You're lucky you caught me. I was
Just leaving, so I see. I was detained, as you probably know, over at Clobber's barn.
Detained?
Okay, Dowser. We'll let that do for the preliminaries. Now, why'd you just try to kill me?
Kill you? Well, good heavens, man,
I did not get careless at a weenie bake, Dowser. I just woke up in the middle of a 3-alarm fire, and I don't like it. As a matter of fact, I'm a little burned up, to use the phrase loosely, and I just might kick your teeth in.
Now, believe me, I haven't been near Clobber's barn since Friday. I had nothing to do with whatever happened.
Sure, and you had nothing to do with a $100 retainer in the phone call from Wendell Wisby.
Well, as a matter of fact,
You figured with a curious city fellow like me on the premises, urban root might shake down easier. Bigger apples from the same old tree, right?
Yeah. All I did was negotiate a personal loan.
Drop it, will you? Root had his hand on the till at the bank. A big hand, $53,000 worth, and Snatcher found out about it. What about you? How'd you get into the act?
The loan.
The shakedown. Where's Uncle Perce, Alonzo?
Out of town somewhere, I suppose. Look, I can't tell you, Mr. Spade.
Perce got as far as the road to Clem Clobber's barn last Friday night. Or did he?
No, he didn't get that far.
You know, I'd begun to suspect as much. How far did he get?
I'm sorry, I can't tell you any more.
Root killed him, didn't he?
No.
You
Now,
saw
let
it.
me go.
How come?
I don't know anymore. Please.
Come on, let's have it, Dowser. What'd he do with the body? Root wore the coat and drove Perce's car out of town so everyone would see him. Now, where's the body?
Let me go. Let me go.
Dowser! Dowser! He squirted out of my hands like a watermelon seed, leaving me with a plaid coat, and took off down the line of atomic cabins toward the atomic restaurant. A nice high-knee action for a little guy, and what with my burns and contusions, I'm forced to admit he was widening the gap between us when he rounded the corner of the atomic restaurant, making possibly the gravest error of his career. Aunt Charity was rounding the same corner, coming the other way with an armload of wood.
You don't reckon he got himself a brain conclusion, do you, son?
I don't know, but he's a weak witness, Aunt Charity, a weak witness.
What you got there?
Oh, shoebox for $1,500. A few odds and ends. And this.
Well.
Yeah, looks like an oversized slingshot fork.
Slingshot? What do you mean, slingshot?
Well, who cares? So he whittles. Where'd you get the idea his name was Dowser?
Huh?
Driver's license in his wallet. Alonzo P. Scoggins.
Who said his name was Dowser?
You did.
I never said his name was Dowser. I said he was a dowser.
Oh. And what's a dowser, Aunt Charity?
A guy who finds water for people, that's what.
Well, that's nice. If you could... Finds water?
Yeah.
How?
Well, I'm no expert, Sonny, but as near as I can recollect, you take this here slingshot fork so, and then...
Mr. Spade, I can't go through with it.
Get hold of yourself, Wendell. Remember the code of the Wisby.
But this sinister revelation has virtually prostrated me, Mr. Spade. And you must remember it is now over a year since my salad days as a magician.
Tut, Wendell. Stout fella, stiff upper.
And further, even at the peak of my career, I was only sketchily acquainted with the field of dowsery. Hold it. There they are. Aunt Wistful is sitting on the back porch with President Root. Mr. Spade,
The code of the Wisbys, Wendell?
Yes, sir. Let's go.
I just can't tell you how full up with gratefulness I am.
Now, Aunt Wistful, don't take on so. It's nothing at all. It's,
You remember Mr. Spade, President Root?
Why, of course.
Of course. Hardly seems any time at all since we met President Root.
Oh, Mr. Spade, President Root's going to buy the farm. Isn't that wonderful?
Touching.
And he's allowing me 10,000 on it against the money Perce stole.
Well, that's a generous offer.
Yeah, I thought so.
Considering there's no water on the farm.
Perce said many times it wouldn't be worth $40 an acre for that water.
Well? Did you say something, Wendell?
Yes. Aunt Wistful, I have great news for you. It may not be necessary to sell the farm.
What do you mean, Wendell? We've made a deal here.
Maybe the signals are off for now, President Root.
You recall Uncle Perce said he'd found a man to solve his problem, Aunt Wistful? I am now ready to step forward and bring it into the open. I am that man.
You?
What do you mean, Wendell?
Since entering the banking field, I divorced myself from magic and the allied dark arts, Aunt Wistful. So I wish to keep my other talents sub rosa.
What are you talking about, Whisby?
President Root, I am a part-time dowser.
And he just happens to have his dowsing rod along, right, Wendell?
Right. I have reason to believe there is water here, if I can just douse it out.
Wendell, you're out of your...
Shut up. Douse away, Wendell, douse away.
Very well. Now, I hold the dowsing fork before me, thus. Then I turn, thus...
Where does it point, Wendell?
Let me see. Toward Aunt Wistful's flower bed.
This is ridiculous.
Shut up. Proceed, Wendell. Proceed with the dowsery.
1 step, 2, 3, 4...
Well, the rod's pointing down.
Well, I never. Right in the middle of my flower bed.
Listen, Aunt Wistful. I'll make that $20,000. $20,000 for the farm. Cash, see? Not credit. Cash.
20?
Hold out.
25. 30.
Right here is where we dig.
35. 35,000.
Well, it's already been dug up. Looks as if Uncle Perce had dug a hole and then filled it back up.
Last Friday night, just before 9 o'clock, right, President Root?
No.
You came down for a showdown on those shortages he turned up, found him digging the well here, and got a better idea.
Please, no.
I've talked to the guy who saw you do it, Root.
All right. I killed him. He's right here. Yes, he's right
here. Which is where you came in, Constable, and since you can take it from here, I shall close, as always, with...
Period. End of report.
Right.
Another triumph, Sam. Another new sphere of effort.
No field is safe from my talent, sweetheart. You will please preserve it for posterity during the following 15-second announcement. Scoot. Scoot.
3 chimes mean good times on NBC. This Sunday, the glamorous and unpredictable Tallulah brings you another hour-and-a-half broadcast of The Big Show, starring Fred Allen, Judy Holliday, Joan Davis, Frank Warren, and many more. And this Sunday's Theater Guild on the Air production is the Broadway comedy The First Year. Starring in this Theater Guild presentation are Richard Widmark and Katherine Grayson.
Here it is, Sam.
Ah, efficient girl. Yeah? Yeah, Millie, this is Sam, boy. What's up? Oh? Oh. Thanks, Millie.
Well, what is it, Sam?
They just relayed a message from Fogarty Grove, F. Wendell is being installed as second vice president tomorrow night at the Moose Hall.
Oh?
He wants me to come.
Oh!
And bring a girl. Are you game, little one?
Well, that's one way to get the report to Constable Ollie Shuttle. I'll do it, Sam.
Good girl. Pack up an emergency ration of sorghum and hominy grits. I'll pull up at your doorstep in the morning at 8 o'clock.
Well, I'll wear my sunbonnet and Mother Hubbard. Oh, good night, Sam.
Good night, sweetheart.
The Adventures of Sam Spade are produced, edited, and directed by William Spear. Sam Spade was played by Stephen Dunn, Lorene Tuttle as Effie. Also in the cast were Peggy Weber, Verna Felton, Sidney Miller, Alice Wellman, Charles Smith, and Nestor Paiva. Script for tonight's adventure by Harold Swanton. Musical scoring by Lud Gluskin, conducted by Robert Armbruster. Join us again next week, same time, for another Adventure with Sam Spade. Tomorrow, your hit parade plays the hit tunes on NBC.
Thank you for listening. Please like and subscribe.